Trapped in a lightless steel tube deep underwater, exactly 155 men sleep mere inches from apocalyptic nuclear warheads. How do they fight off total madness and survive for months inside this extreme psychological pressure cooker? Let's breach the hull and uncover the terrifying daily reality of America's deadliest doomsday submarine. Right at this exact second, the USS Maryland, SSBN 738, an 18,750-ton nuclear leviathan armed with 20 apocalyptic Trident. 2 D5 missiles plunges 1,300 feet below the freezing Norwegian Sea in absolute terrifying silence. Step boldly into this $3.2 billion submerged fortress, and you immediately hit a sensory wall where massive reactors ruthlessly devour over 1/3 of the total volume. What microscopic, suffocating living area actually remains for the 155 elite enlisted sailors, physically trapped within this unstoppable mechanical beast, barely a fraction of a claustrophobic maze? Passageways are ruthlessly narrow, heavily congested, and extremely unforgiving, often measuring exactly 25 inches wide at the absolute maximum. Sailors do not merely walk. They must execute a highly calculated, precise tactical dance. They pivot tuck and slide past searing 150-degree steam pipes and heavy steel bulkheads. One wrong step means shattered knees or severely damaged critical equipment. Can you navigate a hostile metallic labyrinth for 120 consecutive days? Space is mathematically impossible to divide equally among the crew. The United States Navy calculated that carrying extra beds severely compromises vital mission payload capacities. The brutal, highly efficient operational solution is hot bunking. Exactly 155 men must ruthlessly rotate through strictly 100 available racks. When a highly trained sonar technician ends his grueling 8-hour watch, he slowly crawls into a thin, worn foam mattress. It still physically radiates the intense 98.6-degree body heat of the departing machinist mate. They call these cramped microhabitats coffins for a chillingly accurate reason. Imagine physically sliding into a dark, completely unyielding metallic cavity. It measures exactly 76 inches long, 24 inches wide, and a suffocating 18 inches high. You absolutely cannot sit up straight under any circumstance. You can barely roll over without painfully scraping your shoulders against the cold, unforgiving steel directly above. Your entire worldly possessions must fit inside a microscopic 4-inch deep aluminum drop-down pan located directly beneath your mattress. Your heavy coveralls, cherished letters from home, and digital devices are violently compressed. Everything is forced into a space significantly smaller than a standard corporate briefcase. But here lies the absolute breathtaking climax of unparalleled human endurance. When a submariner aggressively pulls that thin, fire-retardant blue curtain shut, a profound psychological transformation instantly occurs. That single, fragile fabric curtain becomes their only impenetrable fortress of privacy inside a massive, multi-billion-dollar strategic war machine. They lie completely flat, physically separated by mere inches of steel from massive Mark 48 AD/CAP torpedoes. These weapons are densely packed with 650 pounds of PBXN-103 high explosive. They constantly hear the relentless, deafening mechanical roar of massive ventilation fans pushing recycled reactor air. Yet they close their tired eyes and magically manifest absolute, unbreakable mental peace. They harness an invincible, terrifyingly strong mental fortitude. They willingly sacrifice every single ounce of personal human comfort to single-handedly secure the global nuclear triad. If you are genuinely awestruck by the sheer physical endurance and extreme sacrifices these silent warriors endure, smash the like button and subscribe immediately to unlock the absolute bleeding edge of modern tactical warfare. Surviving the crushing, agonizing claustrophobia of the hot bunk is truly just the genesis of their trial. We must now fiercely breach the highly guarded, strictly classified realities of extreme underwater sanitation. How do 155 exhausted, heavily sweating men survive when this gigantic vessel strictly limits daily freshwater synthesis? Prepare yourself right now to deeply uncover the shocking, unfiltered biological reality of the grueling, continuous 120-day strategic combat patrol in the darkest ocean depths hidden below. You will never look at clean tap water the exact same way ever again in your whole entire life, starting from right now, today. Water is an absolute tactical vulnerability. The USS Maryland relies on an advanced desalination plant. It constantly strips salt from the crushing ocean outside, but the mighty nuclear reactor always eats first. The reactor requires highly purified makeup water to operate safely. The remaining fresh water is strictly rationed among the sweating, exhausted men. Imagine the overwhelming biological reality. You have enlisted sailors intensely laboring in a sealed, pressurized steel tube. They share exactly 3 stainless steel toilets and precisely 2 microscopic showers. The lines are relentless. The operational pressure is constant. How do you maintain basic human dignity under these ruthless logistical constraints? The United States Navy strictly enforces a draconian hygiene protocol, globally known as the Navy shower. You get exactly 3 to 5 minutes of running water. You turn it on briefly to wet down. You immediately secure the brass valve. You aggressively scrub with strong soap and freezing, echoing silence. Finally, you authorize a highly restricted 10-second rinse. That is your entire daily physical luxury. If water levels critically drop, showers are completely secured without warning. But hygiene in a completely sealed environment is literally a matter of tactical survival. A severe buildup of dangerous bacteria or raw human odor quickly degrades critical operational focus. The chief of the boat, the absolute supreme enlisted authority, ruthlessly polices crew sanitation. If a heavily fatigued machinist smells intensely like toxic hydraulic fluid and stale sweat, the commander will personally order them directly into the stall. Doing your laundry is equally a massively complex strategic military operation. This massive submarine possesses exactly 2 standard industrial washing machines and 2 heavy dryers. Sailors must meticulously coordinate their designated wash days according to extremely complex, constantly rotating watch schedules. Missing your heavily guarded assigned laundry slot literally means wearing chemically soaked, fireproof coveralls for another agonizing, miserable week. You must physically stuff your heavily soiled garments into a tightly compressed mesh bag. You patiently wait your desperate turn while fighting extreme physical exhaustion. But how does this severely deprived crew actually maintain their sanity without going completely irreversibly mad? The beautiful answer lies securely inside the most universally beloved critical compartment of the entire vessel, the galley. In a freezing, lightless void plunging hundreds of feet deep, standard time completely loses all logical meaning. The natural human circadian rhythm violently shatters. Sailors simply do not know if the radiant sun is rising or setting far above the deadly crushing waves. They miraculously measure the passage of time entirely through the culinary menu. If the delicious smell of freshly grilled bacon and hot pancakes fills the roaring ventilation system, it is officially morning. If they are eating heavy lasagna or savory leftover roast beef, it is definitely midnight. The daily food on a nuclear ballistic missile submarine is universally recognized as the absolute finest in the entire United States military arsenal. This is not a mere luxury. It is a vital, heavily calculated psychological weapon. The Navy actively deploys phenomenally trained culinary specialists. These exhausted men are not merely standard cooks. They are highly certified masters of culinary arts meticulously trained at elite naval academies. They operate brilliantly within a tiny galley, significantly smaller than your average suburban kitchen. Yet these phenomenal chefs continuously prepare 4 massive meals every single day. They must flawlessly sustain the massive crew for 120 consecutive days without ever physically surfacing. To miraculously accomplish this impossible logistical feat, they load a staggering 20,000 pounds of premium provisions. We are talking about 1,500 pounds of thick ribeye beef, 1,200 pounds of frozen chicken breast, and over 1,000 pounds of highly caffeinated dark roasted coffee. But where do you mathematically store 20,000 pounds of vital cargo inside a metallic vessel, already dangerously bursting, with massive torpedoes and radioactive nuclear reactors? They cleverly utilize every single square inch of available negative space. Heavy metal cans, tightly formed false floors directly beneath the thin sleeping mattresses. Fresh eggs and delicate perishables are desperately stored inside the freezing, reinforced escape trunks. The absolute climax of a sailor's agonizing day is biting into a perfectly seared steak while completely submerged in a hostile abyss. In that glorious fleeting second, the crushing psychological isolation instantly vanishes. A magnificent meal instantly resurrects their broken spirit, powerfully reminding them of the beautiful surface world they fiercely protect. But what happens when catastrophic injuries strike deep underwater? There are absolutely no professional doctors stationed on board. Prepare for medical terror. When a catastrophic medical emergency violently strikes 400 meters below the frozen ocean surface, panic is an unacceptable luxury. There is absolutely no professional medical doctor permanently stationed aboard this multi-billion-dollar warship. You cannot dial for a rapid medical evacuation. You cannot rapidly surface without severely compromising a highly classified strategic patrol. Someone alone must hold the fragile lives of 155 men in their calloused hands. enter the independent duty corpsmen. The Navy calls them the IDC. These legendary sailors possess a staggering, almost superhuman level of advanced medical expertise that operate far beyond the standard capabilities of civilian emergency paramedics. The IDC is the absolute sole medical authority isolated inside this pressurized steel cylinder. Their intense, grueling training pipeline demands absolute perfection. They are simultaneously the chief pharmacist, the primary dental provider, and the singular psychological counselor. But their terrifyingly massive responsibility does not stop at standard human biology. The mighty S-8G nuclear reactor constantly radiates invisible lethal energy. Therefore, the IDC simultaneously serves as the critical radiation health officer. They meticulously document every single microscopic millirem of radiation exposure hitting the crew. They rigorously conduct industrial hygiene surveys, aggressively monitor the artificial atmospheric quality, and relentlessly test the purified drinking water. Their heavy burden is completely unimaginable. But what happens if a young machinist mate suffers a violently ruptured appendix deep inside hostile territory? This brings us to the absolute terrifying climax of submarine medical operations. The prestigious officers dine inside a slightly larger compartment, officially designated as the wardroom. It features polished wooden panels and formal assigned seating, but this seemingly civilized dining table conceals a dark, terrifying dual purpose. In a dire, life-threatening scenario, this exact wooden table instantly transforms into a sterile, emergency surgical operating theater. The solitary IDC must brutally cut into a bleeding fellow sailor. They must flawlessly perform complex invasive abdominal surgery, while the massive submarine continuously pitches and aggressively rolls through violent, unpredictable ocean currents. Would you trust your exposed bleeding life to a single medic operating on a dining table? Surviving emergency underwater surgery requires supreme physical fortitude, but surviving the agonizing, soul-crushing isolation requires an entirely different type of iron armor. Submarines are specifically engineered to remain utterly invisible. They are the ultimate stealth predators. This fundamental operational requirement dictates a brutal reality. There is absolutely no private Wi-Fi network. There is absolutely no Bluetooth connectivity. Your advanced personal smartphone instantly becomes a completely useless brick the very second those heavy steel hatches permanently seal shut. You are instantly violently severed from the entire surface world. Can you endure 2 full consecutive months without hearing a single word from your beloved family? Sailors strictly rely on highly regulated, heavily censored text emails, but you cannot simply hit send whenever you feel incredibly lonely. Every single outgoing and incoming message is ruthlessly examined for critical policy violations and strict operational security. The Navy calls this OPSEC. The submarine can only sporadically transmit data when it briefly surfaces to periscope depth. However, extending a massive communication mast violently exposes the heavily armed ship to advanced enemy anti-submarine warfare forces. Emitting a tiny electronic signal can instantly invite a lethal enemy torpedo. Therefore, the commanding officer frequently denies all incoming external communication to guarantee absolute tactical stealth. Young sailors routinely miss the birth of their firstborn children. They silently mourn the tragic deaths of their beloved parents while actively tracking hostile foreign contacts in the freezing dark. They swallow their deep, agonizing grief and immediately return to their critical combat stations. They fully understand that their profound personal suffering is the incredibly high price of maintaining global peace. To slightly counterbalance this severe psychological deprivation, the United States Navy graciously grants one highly unique privilege. Submariners possess significantly relaxed grooming standards compared to the rigid surface fleet. They are strictly not required to meticulously shave their faces every single morning. In fact, they can officially grow thick tactical beards while continuously deployed. This minor rebellion against strict military uniformity provides a crucial, deeply needed psychological morale boost. It is a tiny slice of distinct personal identity, proudly preserved within an otherwise entirely uniform, heavily mechanized underworld. But holding this immense emotional weight means nothing if the crew cannot fight. We must now fiercely breach the highly classified brain of this apex predator. These silent men pilot 18,000 tons of lethal steel while completely blind. The jaw-dropping technological magic hidden inside the troop control room suddenly awaits rapid discovery. Stepping into the heavily restricted control room feels like instantly entering the central nervous system of a highly advanced alien spacecraft. This is the absolute, undisputed tactical brain of the USS Maryland. There are absolutely no thick glass windows providing a clear visual path through the murky oceanic depths. These elite sailors pilot an 18,000-ton mechanical leviathan, completely blind. How do you successfully navigate through dangerous, jagged underwater mountain ranges without ever utilizing your own physical eyesight? They rely entirely on the staggering technological supremacy of advanced acoustic sonar. Highly trained acoustic analysts fiercely monitor glowing digital waterfalls on heavily encrypted tactical consoles. They can instantly distinguish the faint biological click of a distant shrimp from the lethal mechanical hum of a hostile Akula-class nuclear submarine. From this dimly lit, intensely focused compartment, the commanding officer constantly dictates the precise buoyancy, rapid depth changes, and exact directional heading. The fire control system is actively managed directly from these exact same glowing screens. Every single vital decision dictating the ultimate survival of the crew originates right here. But the absolute true lethal muscle of this submerged beast lies heavily guarded inside the torpedo room and the classified missile control center. Moving precisely through the highly congested, dangerously narrow steel corridors brings you directly to the formidable weapons launch console. This highly advanced electronic station seamlessly communicates critical tactical firing operations directly with the central fire control brain. The sailors manning the launcher console act as the absolute, undeniable brawn of the entire weapon system. They strictly control the complex hydraulic opening of heavy torpedo tube doors, meticulously monitor immense internal water pressures, and rapidly load massive Mark 48 ADCAP heavyweight torpedoes. Directly adjacent sits the heavily guarded, highly secretive missile control center. This exact room is where the absolute heaviest psychological burden of the entire global free world permanently resides. Elite technicians constantly monitor the supreme safety, impenetrable security, and absolute launch readiness of 20 apocalyptic Trident II D5 strategic missiles. These sailors meticulously maintain the advanced inertial guidance systems daily. They fiercely ensure that if the unthinkable emergency order ever rapidly descends from the National Command Authority, this submarine will flawlessly execute its devastating mission. This massive responsibility represents the absolute breathtaking climax of their existence. These iron-willed submariners form the absolute most critical, utterly undetectable arm of the legendary nuclear triad. They are heavily armed with the ultimate terrifying weapons of global mass destruction. Yet their absolute primary strategic military mission is profoundly, beautifully, and undeniably peaceful. They silently and heroically endure crushing physical isolation, severe daily sleep deprivation, and immense psychological terror, specifically to successfully prevent the sudden catastrophic outbreak of global thermonuclear war. They operate continuously in the darkest, most hostile abysses on Earth, so that you can sleep peacefully under the warm sun. Is there any greater display of pure, selfless human sacrifice in modern military history? Ironically, amidst this extreme, grueling tactical environment, there exists one incredibly fascinating, highly unexpected physical phenomenon. Submariners confidently possess a highly unique, deeply amusing biological distinction that completely separates them from absolutely every other active fighting force currently serving in the entire global military arsenal. Because the expertly prepared galley food is so undeniably spectacular and physical movement is so heavily restricted, virtually every single enlisted sailor actually gains weight during continuous strategic combat deployment. A highly trained enlisted submariner actually gains roughly 10 solid pounds on average before finally returning triumphantly to their designated home port. It perfectly proves that even deep inside a terrifying multi-billion-dollar apocalyptic weapon, brilliant culinary comfort miraculously prevails. These incredibly brave silent warriors completely sacrifice their fleeting youth, their precious personal comfort, and their vital family connection to aggressively defend the absolute safety of the free world. They truly are the ultimate undeniable guardians of the crushing, unforgiving deep ocean today. If you are deeply moved by this unparalleled showcase of absolute human endurance and brilliant mechanical supremacy, smash that like button immediately. Subscribe to our channel right now to permanently unlock the absolute bleeding edge of advanced global tactical warfare, master complex military doctrines, and officially honor the unmatched bravery of the silent service forever.